Hell Week was designed by a guy named Draper Kaufman. He was tasked with taking the first people into Iwo Jima, knowing that they would all die.
Yeah.
How do you convince somebody? Because SEALs are in the surf zone, which is already the most stupid, dangerous place to operate. It's terrible. So we want you to go into the surf zone and blow up all the underwater obstacles and do it under fire.
Welcome to another episode of Stuttering Your Way to Success with Erik Weir. My special guest today is Thom Shea. Thom is author of Unbreakable and another book called 3 Simple Things. He's a former Navy SEAL where he served for 23 years, is a recipient of a Silver Star and a Bronze Star with Valor. I read his book. Rarely do I read a book that I have a hard time just putting it down. I think I wrote almost the whole thing through, and I wish I'd started it earlier if I knew I'd enjoyed so much. And I wanted to screen it, but that didn't happen, and skim it. Now I'm making notes, I have questions, I've underlined things, talked to my wife, and I was surprised of just, how the relationship between you and your wife is so critical. And maybe surprised isn't the right word. I was enlightened. I was encouraged. I saw things that all of us who have in relationships can glean and learn from, and the support you give each other. So, one of the things when I was reading, I thought was interesting is divorce in America is, I understand now, a little over 50%.
It's a qualification that everybody has to have now, it seems.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And among SEALs, it's over 70%.
It's prolific.
Yeah. And then, but the thing that I don't want to spoil it. I guess I'm just going to spoil it anyway. But I mean, your proposal to me was like the most amazing thing, And I'm going to
that she said yes. You mean?
Yeah. I mean, like,
I always wonder why she said yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, talk to me about her a little bit and about relationships as a SEAL because you're gone 220 days a year, and wow, just take it from there. Wow.
Gosh, it's so a long time spending childhood growing up in the SEAL teams through what I call my adult life, and then going through the ups and downs of pretty much everything. That book was originally just an idea right before deployment. So SEALs go on 6 to 8 month long deployments. And every time you go into combat and you leave your family the night before, it's not relaxing. It's not a joyous moment because SEALs don't go and knock doors and build camps. They do bad things. And so the night before, Stacy the tension was cuttable, and she said, "Hey, I want you to write notes to us in case you die, so I can teach the kids about you." That was the genesis of the original book. The original, as I wrote it, and since you write, you have to have a theme in your brain. So
right.
One of the themes that was in my brain was Spartan woman. I wanted to pass on to my kids that without strong women, men suck. They literally do. They're less human without a strong personality of a woman around them. So we ended up printing out 5 copies of Spartan Woman with no intent that anybody in the public read them. And Stacy, when I retired, had it cleared, vetted through the Navy system and through the SEAL, chain of command without me knowing.
Really?
And then
we
retired, and I got notice that your book's up on Amazon. So I'm looking for Spartan Woman going,
really?
There's no book called Spartan Woman. She goes, no, it's called Unbreakable, Navy SEAL's Way of Life. And I'm like, honey, I do not want to use my trident as a shingle to hang out. And I was one of those guys that hated that. And so it was with the intent to pass on lessons to my kids in case I didn't come back.
Wow.
And what I found in that, interesting lessons, but going back to the Stacy, I had gotten the call called divorce halfway through my career. And in the teams, if you get a divorce, you get a year off because you're not functional.
Oh, wow.
Because you're dealing with kids, you're
Sure,
dealing with
sure,
emotions.
sure.
And so during that year off, I'm like, well, who would marry an active duty Navy SEAL with kids? So I was resolved to, it's never going to happen. And I met Stacy in Coronado at the Starbucks coffee shop. And if you've ever been to Coronado, there's one.
Right.
And I had no intent to, other than date and the occasional, nobody's going to commit to me. Met her there. And the worst meeting you could ever have as a human being. She was back when everybody's young and pretty, she had long hair, blonde hair down to her, right above her belt line. And I'm looking at her back, and she orders a large coffee with 4 shots of espresso. And I have the gift of, or the non-filtered gab. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're going to get hair on your back. And I'm like, I think I said that out loud. And she turns around and she's, does that ever work for you as a line? I'm like, I'm so sorry, ma'am. And then I ordered a Venti peppermint mocha.
Yeah, what's up with that?
And she says, oh, you're one of those gay guys here. I'm like, and we got married 9 months later.
How about that? Yeah.
That's how a great relationship start.
Yeah, I remember reading that in the book. It's like, wow, that's a rough start. Yeah, she's pushing back
brutal.
on you back and forth. I thought that was great. One of the lines that she said when in the book, and it came up multiple times, and the first time it really, I've got to be honest with you, kind of choked me up. I wasn't expecting to see that, but she goes, you talk about the importance of being needed, and in your team units, you need each other. You need each other for functionality. And I understand that. But it was important about being needed, you needing your wife and your wife needing you, and yet there being, kind of walk through that a minute. What that is, you're giving each other space, but you have a need, but you're not needy. Kind of walk me through that. And it's the same with the team, right?
One of the greatest environments that a man could ever have an option to experience is the SEAL teams. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't notice from the outside. From the outside, it's probably a thump your chest, hoorah, which is one of the sayings in the SEAL teams. But in the SEAL teams, you are impacted by and impact everybody uniquely. Mm-hmm. The word in the SEAL teams not said very often, but you're deeply loved by them, and you deeply love them, not at the SEX level, you know what I mean? But
right.
There's such intimacy there. And you need that intimacy to grow and prosper during chaos or hell, and you're there often. So in the teams, the mission doesn't matter at all. Mm-hmm. Each other matters. So you're always fighting towards each other. Mm-hmm. And my experience of Stacy is I'm always fighting towards her to get back to her when I was in combat. I'm only interested in getting home. Right. I say yes or no to missions that if I can't solve them, I can't get home. I'm not interested. Right. But the words that she said that came up later during that deployment was, "Don't fear dying; it makes you weak, and I want you to fight your way home to us." Yeah. And that's been a beck and call for me ever since. Yeah. And it's hard not to get choked up because it's real for me. I got choked up
like 5 or 6 times, and And I think most people reading this would be choked up thinking, I want a relationship like that. Don't fear dying. Yeah. Fear makes you weak. And I had someone here on here earlier, we're talking about in business or in anything, it applies. Fear is bad. How do you face overwhelming odds on deployment? And you read this, the SEALs are, you want to have the surprise, you want to have overwhelming firepower, you want to have strategy, unity. But you go into situations where, the odds may not be that great as far as numerically. So how do you handle your emotions in times like that?
It's probably the opposite of how you're looking at it. It's probably more what you do, but phrased differently. So in the SEAL teams, every mission that you're given or that you first put on the table, so to speak, is unwinnable. Okay. There's too many nebulous details. It's too chaotic. No funding. Right. As a SEAL, you have to get all that. You have to get approval. You have to get funding. You have to be training your guys. You have to talk generals and admirals into things that they don't understand. So the first term in the SEAL teams that they teach you is commit before you know anything. Until you're fully fully committed and there's no way out, you're never going to solve complex problems. So which is the adventure in Hell Week. The only people that make it through Hell Week is you're committed to making it through, and then they give you every reason and excuse and experience to quit.
Right.
And so commit without knowing. The second one is seek your buddies first for the answer. Leaders in the SEAL teams don't really exist because everybody has 20 years of experience.
Right.
You have a specialty, I have a specialty. What I thought the great leaders seek each other. So the third one is listen to each other without judgment, where nobody understands that. So commit without knowing, seek each other, and listen without judgment. And if you can get through those three, every solution is readily available. Because if you're going to quit when it gets bad,
It's true.
oh man, all you got to do is stick it out. Well, this is miserable. Emotions don't come up much in the SEAL teams.
Right.
For some reason, I have no idea why. Or you're always the Hulk, where the anger is ready to just push this button and I can go from 0 to 100.
Right.
But people are always like steady water. We're
Right.
getting shot at. It's not. Don't get emotional now. It's a wrong response. Everybody
Right.
calm down. So you spend 20 years holding the Hulk at bay,
Right.
and then when you turn him on, you can turn him off quickly.
Right.
And nobody yells in combat. Nobody's excited.
Right.
People are actually having fun. And I show boys, my two sons, some of the head cam videos, and they're like, "What is that?" I'm like, "That was actual combat mission. We're shooting at people." "Oh, it looks like you guys are joking at each other and having fun." It's the experience of, like, you've done so many projects.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
If you're angry up front and you're angry at people, nobody's functioning. So
Right. There are always overwhelming odds and things.
Always,
like that.
yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm not surprised. But Hell Week, when I was reading, you not only were you a SEAL, a sniper, but you also you trained those and prepared others and ran Hell Week. And I've seen shows of it. I've talked to my father who went through the Ranger School, and it was what he did. But kind of walk me through, to the extent you can, what's that like? And is there a characteristic in a person that overcomes their physicality and just allows them to complete that? What is that makes a SEAL unique?
Boy, that's the $1 billion question that nobody's resolved. So Hell Week was designed in 1936 or 7 by a guy named Draper Kaufman, who designed the curriculum. It's stayed rather intact since then. He was tasked with taking the first people into Iwo Jima, knowing that they would all die.
Yeah.
How do you convince somebody? Because SEALs are in the surf zone, which is already the most stupid, dangerous place to operate.
Right.
Surfers surf there, and kids play there a little bit.
Right.
But it's terrible. So we want you to go into the surf zone and blow up all the underwater obstacles and do it under fire. And so Draper puts this curriculum together to get rid of people who are going to quit. His whole design of Hell Week is get rid of quitters first, and then you can teach anybody who's not going to quit relatively anything. And so it's designed to take away sleep from you, your ability to function mentally and physically happen in the first day. Like you go in pretty solid, like 100 push-ups in 2 minutes, and you can do 20 pull-ups when you go in to Hell Week. And then in the first day, they beat you physically and mentally. Like literally, other than an instructor beating you, they just demoralize you wholesale to see if that's going to be a reason that you quit. Like even, hey, I know your wife's not named Cindy, but hey, Cindy, we're all going to her house tonight. And seeing if you're going to give up on the process. And physically, they put cold water is the biggest physical demoralization in the world. Just sit there. And so the process taking you through chaotic experiences and no-win exercises. So you didn't win, okay, toe the line again. Now you have to make the time the second time. Well, already failed. People quit because they can't win. Good, we got rid of the people who have to win to be in the game.
Okay.
And then the no-quit, it's called surf torture. There's the people who quit during surf torture are ones that like to stay high functioning. So as I can't function, like you can't even say your name.
Oh, wow.
Your eyes track all over the place. And that is the experience of great warrior, because if everybody around me on my team already always isn't going to quit, we're already functioning at a different place.
Oh, my word. Yeah.
And so then I got the beautiful experience to be the only one in history to go into 5 hell weeks. Because I was stupid. I wouldn't quit. So they're like, okay, try again. I got a concussion in my first hell week, dislocated my right shoulder my second hell week. Third hell week, I got pneumonia, got kicked out of the SEAL program, and came back 9 months later and made it through Class 207 finally in hell week.
And you recognize the instructors by this point, right?
Oh, everybody knew me.
Yeah. They're like,
It didn't make it easier.
You're a legend, right? At that
They're
point,
like, oh, here's going to come again. It's going to be.
We're going to get you again, buddy.
It's like
We're gonna-
lining up to get kicked in the gym, and you're like, oh, I know this is going to hurt.
Wow. One of the things I thought what was interesting, you said you had a couple of words in your vocabulary that you kept for years and used, but you took them out of your vocabulary. And
Other than the F word?
Yeah, or, yeah, that's this point, right? Yeah. Belief and hope. And you replace those with different words. So tell me about that.
It's clear when I explain it this way. Belief is the absence of knowledge. People, it may not be apropos from all conversations, people believe in God and have no experience of God. If you've had an experience of God, you no longer believe it. So belief is the absence of seeking experience and knowledge. It's literally the absence of knowledge. Great to sell people on belief. So hope is the absence of personal responsibility to take action. I hope somebody will come help me get up off the ground. So those two things, if you are a believer, you can be sold anything, and it may not be true. If I would rather experience God than believe in God, because if you tell me things and I believe them, I'm never going to have an experience of it other than I believe it to be true. And hope in the SEAL teams is horrible. Nobody hope for anything. Get on the wall, put a hole through the wall, and start shooting people. Don't hope the situation is going to change. Like, I hope the government comes to save me. They're not going to save you.
Right.
Or I hope Erik comes and helps me out. What are you doing? So those two words get destroyed, I think, through experience.
Another thing you said is a hard mind is breakable, but a malleable mind is unbreakable. Kind of walk me through that.
I think humans are the greatest malleable creatures. An animal has a mindset. It's set in stone. Humans have the ability to think things and it transform them. And because you can lose 1,000,000 times. Every project is always on the tip of failing.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you're hardened to that part of the project has to happen, or in combat, nothing goes the way you plan it, ever. It never goes the way you planned.
Right.
Like even loading up the helos didn't go perfectly,
Right.
you know. And
Right.
they have to land again. They're out of ammo, and
Right.
something. So the brain that keeps resetting, which I think is the greatest mindset, is have a reset every time there's an issue that you didn't account for. Reset,
Right.
but don't quit.
And you talked about the importance of thoughts and the importance of words, and I was reading, you could tell like the humor and the levity and the mutual love and admiration among the SEAL team members. But you're saying like words matter in general. Things that I say matter. Things that I think matter. Right?
Horrifically true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how do you like recognize, hey, I'm on a bad thought pattern right now, and then what kind of skill or exercise do you do to alter that?
I think I got the biggest sense of how words are transformative when I was an instructor. So I checked into SEAL training as an instructor September 9th, 2001.
Oh,
2 days before
days.
the towers went
I recognize
down.
that day, yeah.
And our captain that was in charge of it said, "Hey, all right, we're at war now. I don't care if anybody graduates. If you wouldn't operate with them, we're going to get rid of them," which was a great time to be an instructor. Take your hands off the staff, let the lions run amok, and we probably did too much damage. We could have had some hands on us. And so during that period of time, I kind of frame it up now as an adult. And I actually got this from going back and researching great books and history and how great men, and like even in the Bible, there's a conversation of speaking things into existence from Genesis and all the way till the end.
Right.
And it's actually written words, which is
Right.
the language is created by the written word. So in the void, God spoke.
In the beginning, right?
And whatever you say to somebody with these phrases in it, and it may sound weird, it's a character assault on somebody. If you say somebody is something, those 4 being words, am, is, are, and be, the moment you say those, they're true.
Wow.
If I say I am no longer in love with Stacy, it's over. If I say I am out, I'm out. If I say to my son, you are a loser, immediately he distinguishes himself as a loser. So in the SEAL training, you're always in the middle of training and Hell Week and going through buds and you're all your platoons. The moment you start hearing yourself saying, we are not going to make it, you're like, stop it. Like, hey, buddy, I feel bad about something. Don't say it out loud, bro. Don't even say it inside. Usually they beat you up for saying that. And they don't let character assaults on each other. Once you, if your platoon chief hears you degrade somebody with the, hey, you are a loser, the platoon will take it out on you. So don't do that. And in the SEAL teams, it became prevalent. Don't character assault another SEAL.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You can, say, I hate you. That's cool.
Right. Yeah,
that's
fine.
your emotional response. But don't put somebody down like they're being who they are. And you see it in business everywhere.
Yeah.
You see kids at home getting browbeat by their parents and each other. And it's catastrophic. You can see the light turn off in people.
Wow. That's so true. One of the things you're doing now, tell me about your executive coaching. It seemed to be giving back and taking what you've learned about team building and unity and overcoming obstacles. I mean, how do you help business leaders with your knowledge?
Well, when you retire later in life, which most people don't have that being successful, and then they retire. Gosh, is there a transition to be a great sniper in the civilian community?
Right.
There's gun shooting, and I'm like, And I had some great mentors here in town, and they asked me, what's unique about the SEAL teams that you could transfer to the business community? I said, SEALs are people-centered.
Okay.
I'm never going to learn enough about investing because I'm already 20 years behind my peers that were doing stock market or whatever.
Right.
Never going to be a builder. I could be, but I'm already behind.
Right.
But the unique aspect of the SEAL teams is humans. And so I divided humans, the characteristics of humans, into 5 areas. Health is one, and everybody has a body.
Right.
Most civilians don't take care of it. So I knew I was going to capture that market. The other one is obviously business. How do you grow? How do you put effort into a business that's not all over the place? And the SEAL teams are very business-oriented, but we don't get paid for the business. But we're really good at the business of being a SEAL. And constant learning. So health, wealth, intellectual, and coming to find out relationship, like we were talking before we got here.
Right.
Relationships, every executive, when they have a great relationship at home, their business booms. If they're in a bad one, it's stale. If they can't tolerate their spouse, they can't tolerate people at work. So the fourth one being, well, I never thought I would be in that conversation constantly. And the 5th area is spirituality.
Wow. Okay, that's great.
So those 5 areas, I knew I could speak to and deliver a product, if you will, that's measurable by the client. At least I thought so.
Yeah,
in
that's great.
concept, and I gave it to the first client, and it was a year-long process.
Really?
And
Wow.
2x'd all those areas in his life, even his business. Then it became a referral system where Jim called 5 of his executive friends, and
Right.
now I brought some partners on, and we teach it through a seminar series, which I think is exquisitely better.
Right. If somebody wanted to learn about your coaching, how would they find out about it?
Well, we started. I had to take coaching, which is isn't it the hardest thing in the world?
Yeah.
I didn't want my name to be anywhere,
Right. Right.
and come to find out that okay.
Yeah.
So the answer is our website is thomshea.com.
Okay.
THOMSHEA.com.
Okay.
And I fought that for 10 years.
Did you really?
So I
Yeah.
went all kinds of names of companies
Sure.
that were high Fandango names, and nobody could find me. But my name is all over the internet. But what's your company name this year? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh. So, and I also, like you doing a podcast, I found out how to find and recruit people that are really good in the social media space. The 18 and 20-year-old kids have lived it their entire life.
Right. Right.
So I was like, I'm going to hire a great marketing firm, and I've done that maybe 15 times in 10 years. The older generation doesn't know the social media. So I just 2 months ago hired the son of a woman that I'd put through training.
Right.
And he's tripled our social media.
Is that right?
And he loves it. And he's like, hey, do a topic on underwater welding or whatever it is.
Right.
He goes, it's all algorithm based. I've been fighting doing it the right way for
Sure.
so
Sure.
long,
Sure.
know.
Sure.
And it's been a beautiful process to see.
That's fantastic.
To help other people do that.
Yeah, that goes back to your goal. You're constantly learning. You're trying new
Always.
things, right?
And
Always.
my head's the hardest head to get through and chip away at getting an opening into it. And
Sure. One of the things you mentioned also is when you're engaged as a SEAL and you've made that 23-year commitment, you're there, that when you were not in combat, you begin to miss it, and a lot of people would say, hey, they wouldn't understand that. But when you hear about the camaraderie, the friendships, the unity, you understand it. When you retire, is there something that kind of steps in those shoes, so to speak, that, hey, this is something I really enjoy doing now?
well, the one thing, unless you've experienced it in a unit like the SEAL teams, it's the only time in life. So combat, my 6 combat deployments were the only time in life everything was simple and clear.
Okay.
There's no drama, and thank God you don't have your family with you, because not that it's always drama, but it's complex. And you're hyper-focused. Everybody around you has the same focal point. And communication is very succinct with each other. So, and then you either killed the guy or he killed you. Like that level of clarity is missing. Not that I say everybody shouldn't have that level of clarity, like kill or be killed. But that's what combat is like to SEALs. People would rather be in a combat environment than go through training, because training in the SEAL teams is so nebulous. It's chaotic, and you have your family to worry about. You have money to worry about. Overseas, it's just one focal point, and everybody gets that same focal point. And I knew that going in. So I knew when we retired, I had to replace it with something equal in those 5 areas. So I took on adventure or ultra running, and I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
Running 100 miles when you're 225 pounds always is not that cool. And then I wanted to keep being around people who challenged my point of view intellectually. And then when you get out of something that you're good at and you get into an area where you suck at everything, everything's a challenge. Accounting was a challenge. Talking to a lawyer was a challenge.
Right.
And so I still have not popped my head above the surface of the business world, because it's always learn something new, think it's right. Social media changes, podcasting changes. The people you meet, I had no idea about that. So everything intellectually has been a challenge. And I define wealth doing something that I value doing and being compensated somehow for doing it. monetization is one way. I like the compensation of being around people that are better than me.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So sometimes I reduce the fees just because of the upside experience of hanging around, you or somebody else. And then what's the challenge in relationship? Now I have to be a dad. So I went from a part-time dad in the teams. Now I'm home having to raise my kids. And my daughter is now an Apache pilot. And she went to West Point and did royally well.
Oh, wow.
My middle boy, Garrett, is a junior at Clemson. 2 dad techniques, 2 different kids.
Right.
And my youngest, Chance, is Stacy's and my son. We named him Chance because we were so old. That was our last chance to have a baby. And and Chance is a sophomore in high school. And
that's fantastic.
the relational side has been the biggest challenge, personally and with clients. And I can tell you, when relationship is on, everything is on. And so always putting difficulty on the table that I don't have a solution for in those 4 areas. And then the spiritual area, I go back and research the origin of spirituality, the origin of Christianity, the origin of, God. And that's been a blessing to go back and question the origin of it, because it's a challenge. So all SEAL teams is a challenge.
That's right. That makes sense. If you could go back and talk to your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself today?
When I was 20, I was at West Point, and it was my first downturn in my life. So I anticipated it being a certain way, and it wasn't. And I would have told my younger self, do what you did later, is stop quitting. It took me forever to admit that what happened to me at West Point is I quit. On paper, I failed out. But I got so disillusioned that, you ever been disillusioned? It's hard to function.
Right.
I would have said, hey, pull your straps back up and get after it.
Wow. You mentioned here, when we're talking also the book, but adventure racing. And I read where there's 4 people in the race. One's a co-ed. You got a special exemption to 4 SEALs. Your bigger guys, everyone else, like you mentioned, smaller. They're distance racers. You have absolutely no experience, and with the water you're fine. But bicycles, what are those? How do I buy them? How do I finance it? So many obstacles you came over, and then you show up, and after the first day, you're in 13th place, right? Which is not where you want to be. And some of the tactics you have. So how does adventure race, how did doing that with other SEALs shape both your being a SEAL, and then maybe shape your business coaching?
So adventure racing is multi-venue sport with a start and a stop line separated by 500 to 600 miles. And I was never intrigued with like a marathon.
Right.
Where you could go practice the course, you could get better at the course, everything is known. What combat represented to me, having already seen it twice before I started doing adventure racing, was all the nebulous things that if you could have trained better or spend more time in a comfortable environment, you would have been better in combat. So when I became an instructor, I'm like, what's out there that would represent this safer than being shot at? And adventure racing was a big thing at the time. Eco Challenge was out, and they found out that doesn't monetize. So all the business people like, oh, we gave you $100,000, and there's no way to get it back. And so where you have to make decisions all the time about other people, how you treat other people was paramount to success. It's not just about performance. It's how you browbeat each other, and when you're tired, and how a look can condescend somebody. So it was brutal. And it's real, because you're out with other human beings doing something was exciting before you started, and then it's not so much. And I learned the human side of the equation's more important than the performance side. Okay. Because you can't get performance out of somebody if if you browbeat the heck out of them, which all leaders tend not to look heavily at how they treat other people to get performance out of them. I was always mean, and mean's cool, but it's not that effective. You know what I mean by that?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah.
I'm at the head of the line of anger and mean.
Right.
So I've learned that it's not helpful.
Doesn't get
There's
you
a time for it, but not in a leadership position.
Wow. And I may not pronounce this right, but adamantine. Walk me through that.
Well, so the word is something that doesn't exist, but when you have it, it makes you unbreakable. That's the definition of the word. Like, the X-Men that got that weird substance that had to be combined under heat and pressure, and then all of a sudden his bones wouldn't break. So that was my stupidity of not using my name. Let's come up with a Fandango name, and nobody can pronounce it and spell it. So that's why we called our company. And alliances make people unbreakable. That's what the two words together.
Okay.
What's the cause and effect of making people unbreakable?
Wow. You talk a lot about internal dialogue. We talked about external dialogue. If you say things to people and they're demeaning, you don't get good performance. You see their lights turn off. If you say they feel that. But we do that to ourselves. Oftentimes we have our own limiting thoughts where we're not even reliant upon somebody else. I talk about it in Who's Eating Your Pie is about what holds us back most in life isn't what somebody else said. It's the lies we believe, and oftentimes these lies we believe are created by ourselves. So tell me about the importance of internal dialogue, and then I want to talk about some exercises you mentioned that seem to be, wow, this is an interesting way to look at, to begin to overcome and purposely put yourself in situations where you want to quit in a controlled environment. So talk to me a little about internal dialogue.
Well, imagine that everything you say to yourself is true to you.
Okay.
So since that's actually factual, everything you say to yourself is true to you. It's a fact. Be very careful what you say to yourself. And nobody's telling anybody that. When you wake up in the morning, do you say you're fat? Do you say you're healthy? Do you say your wife loves you? Do you say this project's going to work? Or are you questioning it? Not in particular.
Sure.
But people wake up and they're like, I don't want to go to work. They wake up, man, today's going to suck. Therefore it will.
That is so true.
It's raining outside. It's cloudy.
Right.
I'll have that big meeting. I hate when Bill's there. They already, before they arrive, have boxed it into an unwinnable situation. And what if you were present to the words that you said to yourself? So in the training that I do, it's recode it. Every morning, wake up and say, I am healthy. Before you're healthy, which is commit before knowing.
Right.
I'm healthy. Don't let the mirror tell you anything. Don't let your performance, which is a lag indicator. So
That's good.
I am healthy. I am one with Stacy, whether we had a fight or not, whether she's doing something bad, whether I'm doing something bad. I am one with you, which is a relational internal dialogue. I'm a valued leader, which is the leadership discussion. If you don't say that to yourself, you can't hire enough people to tell you that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I've found a lot of leaders that have been successful. They're like, man, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Be conscious of what you just said.
Wow.
Rephrase it, because if you say that every day for the next 20 days,
It's a habit.
The business is going to falter around you, or you'll just kind of abdicate the throne. And
Right.
the biggest fear that humans have is that we're powerful beyond measure, which is the spiritual fear. Inside of you, he resides, so acknowledge that. Say, I'm powerful beyond measure. You can impact 5 billion people, which is a spiritual conversation. Because if you don't say that, you say, life is empty and meaningless. Don't say that either. So those recoding conversations
Like that.
is you have to have them. The internal dialogue that you have to master. If you're not doing it, somebody else is going to tell you who you are, which is catastrophic. And I've noticed that all successful people, they say it's successful before it starts to happen.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No
This
doubt about
project's going to work.
that. No doubt. Yeah, never in doubt. The internal dialogue, you mentioned some exercise, and there was more of this, but 3 kind of stood out to me, and they became increasingly challenging as you went through, and I'm sure that's by design. And the first one was, wake up, do 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, 10 squats for 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. Next week, double it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then 20, and then 30. And you were saying that, at some point in time, you're beginning to like, nobody's watching. Why am I doing this? This is crazy. I'm not getting a medal for this. And you want to quit. And I thought, well, that may not be so bad. Then it went to rappelling. And I'm like, now you're starting to medal, right? So 100 feet down, I'm like, rappelling. And then it's to climb back up the rope. Okay, well, that's fear of heights, maybe fear of something new. You need to have an instructor, find a 5.4 or 5.7 mountain, things to look for. And I'm like, okay, I got that. I actually was looking to talk to my sons. Hey, let's go do some outward bounds. They're like, yeah, let's do it. We're rappelling, river raft. Okay, I got them. They're ready for that. And then the third one was like a 24-hour walk without stopping more than 10 minutes. And I thought, well, I never crossed my mind, but kind of walk me through the importance of that and then what that does to somebody as far as learning to manage your internal dialogue.
Well, so the first lesson of the book was keep your promise for a promise for 21 days. In the SEAL teams, you can't make a choice on anything unless you've done it for 21 days straight. A new skill, a new weapon. This weapon's not black. I like black guns.
Okay.
Don't make a choice until you've done it successfully for 21 days straight. Okay. So taking that into the book and teaching my kids that was honor your word for 21 days, which is the hardest skill set for humans to have. We don't keep our promises, but we don't know why we don't keep our promises, which I've put into my training. 2,500 people have tried to keep a promise for 21 days, and 58 out of 2,500 have done it. Because in the background, what's going on in the background is far more interesting to talk about. So there's 4 excuses that every human has that prevents them from being awesome.
If you're listening to this, write this down.
The 4 excuses, and they're weird.
Yeah.
So the first one's believable. So,
Okay.
And these excuses, one of my clients said, hey, subtle, seductive, and believable.
Okay.
These are the 4 excuses. The first one is pain. Emotional and physical pain will talk you out of anything. I made a promise, the push-ups hurt. Oh, therefore, I don't have to keep my promise. It hurts, therefore I won't. I'm being yelled at, therefore I won't go to work. So emotional pain and physical pain are an excuse we use to not keep a promise.
Okay.
The second one is, I forgot, which is the weirdest excuse. You get it on business all the time.
Right.
I sat in on a Cerberus Capital board meeting, and this guy copied and pasted something in a $5 billion contract. Oh, we forgot to do due diligence. See ya.
Wow.
If you can't do that right. So I forgot has killed people. Right. I forget things. You made a promise. I forgot to wake up. So that's relevant to every human.
Sure.
The third one is support. Since my boss doesn't support me doing this, since my kids, my wife doesn't support me, then I won't keep my promise. The fourth one is, it's what we say to ourselves right before it's successful. This is stupid. Once we say that, I don't have to keep my promise. It's always right before success that people, I use the F word, this is effing stupid.
Yeah.
Every time you say that, it's right before it's going to work. Do we have to do this again today, boss? Do we have to go out to the range again? Do we have to go do another podcast? This is so stupid. It's not working.
Wow.
If you just go and do what you promised to do, it'll work out. So those 4 excuses that I've seen in the teams and in business prevent everybody from being successful. And they're prevalent everywhere.
They are. That is.
And you can hedge against each one. Take aspirin or Motrin for pain.
Right.
Deal with it.
Right.
But don't stop or don't quit.
Right.
If you have emotional issues,
Right.
have somebody deal with those too, but
Right.
don't not keep your promise. Get support.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably better to get support before you commit to something.
Mm-hmm.
Or if hey honey, I have to go do this thing. What can I do to support you? Because I know I'm cutting the legs out from under you. So support is the hardest of those to get.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to deal with pain and anguish.
Mm-hmm.
Just get help.
Mm-hmm.
Get a freaking alarm clock.
Mm-hmm.
Or pay somebody $50,000 to remind you to get there on time. You're going to get there on time.
Right. Right.
And then this is stupid is the most catastrophic excuse that people have.
Mm-hmm.
How many projects have you been on? In the penultimate moment, you're like, oh, dude, I'm done. This is so stupid. I have to do another phone call. I have to go deal with this other thing again. Yeah, do it again, because that's what you're there to do.
Correct.
And those 4 excuses are, I think, the harbingers of success. If you can get rid of them, you're in.
Fantastic. This is some good stuff.
And then
here.
the second one you're talking
Yeah,
about, lesson 2 was fear.
Yeah, fear.
You have to encounter fear. If you just, to my kids, I'm like, if you just spent your life going towards the thing that you're afraid of doing, you'll be the happiest person in the world. Don't let fear prevent you from doing anything. And in the SEAL teams, they destroy fear as a reaction. And then the 24-hour walk, I probably think I should have not put that in the book. Now we've done 22 of them. We do 2 or 3 a year.
And
it's
you lead it.
Yeah. So what happens during our 24-hour cycle? When you ask yourself, what's the best version of me? You ask it in the first hour. You ask it in the second hour. By the 4 o'clock in the morning, you've resolved that you're not leading your best life, and I'm going to start. So I have half the people keep coming back to it to resolve what's the best version of myself. What if I just pursued that? Have hedge fund managers come, have 2 guys from South Africa that have flown in.
So people
3 or 4.
pay to do this with you.
Yeah.
Right.
And in 24 hours, you'll resolve all the BS in your life because you get tired.
Right.
And it's just a walk. It's about 2.7 miles an hour, and you stop every hour, and you answer that question. What's stopping
how long
you?
do you stop for?
Sometimes they're longer because I used to do it as a 10-minute variant, and then the guy that had done it 5 times finally stopped me, and he said, you know why I come to this? To be with people that are trying to answer that question and to hear your answers to them. I'm like, knuckle dragger, you don't want to hear my answer. He goes, let them talk. Let everybody have a voice. I'm like, oh, man, that means I have to coach. And so now it's a training coaching event, not like a endurance event.
So for clarity, what's the question that you pondered during the walk?
What prevents you from being the best version of yourself? And people pay for that. So immediately right up front, I ask it, what's the best version of yourself and what's stopping you? From business to health to relational to spiritual, and they come up with an answer, and then 2 o'clock in the morning there's a new one. And we had 4 couples that have done it together, and 2 of them got remarried out of it. Like, hey, let's reinvent each other because we don't like our old selves. And good, start over, reinvent yourself, and move forward. And I had a family of 10 people. The parents and then the 8 kids come.
Wow.
I used to do it for businesses.
Yeah.
It's probably the best selection process for executive staff. So I had a business bring 10 direct reports, the CEO and 10 direct reports. He fired 4 of them.
Wow.
Yep, that's exactly that's the person that got covered up. And it came out in the middle of the night. He goes, now I see why all the strife is in the business. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, he goes, you're done.
Your
I'm
walk is over.
Oh my God. Then he calls back and says, "Hey, I fired the other 3 guys." I'm like, I don't want to do that to a business, but it's a great vetting because you get to see the real human being inside.
Wow. 2 more questions. And I'm sure it's probably more than one, but who are your mentors, and what motivates you today?
The saying, if you show me the 5 people that you spend most time with, so I have those 5 areas. I have a mentor in each,
Okay.
And they revolve over time. A guy named, I won't use his last name, a local pastor here named Dan has been my spiritual mentor for 10 years, where we meet once a week to have challenging conversations. And then physically, I'll take on a challenge and then go find the best person that represents the top of the field and go train with them for a week. Mountain biking, running, paddling, shooting, whatever the case is. So, and then whatever business that I'm pursuing that year, I find top and field. And most people are very amiable to mentor. I've never had a no. Like if I would come to you and pitch you with it, you're like, oh shoot, there's a financial upside too. Heck yeah, I'll do that too. And I've never heard a no, which is the greatest aspect of mentorship. But you have to put something remarkable on the table that isn't, hey, can I just spend time with you? Nobody will pick that up. Hey, I'm trying to climb Everest. Can you help? And oh yeah, I'll do that. So, and having done Everest, that's a 5-month engagement. So,
Yeah, that's a lot.
yeah.
There's Kilimanjaro. It's a little shorter, but
you have to go through the desert and the jungle to get there.
Right.
2 different catastrophic things.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what motivates you now?
The words "one more day" motivate me. More so, having spent time in combat, seeing the urgency of life sometimes leave people in business. Man, what if you just had one more day? If you didn't have a whole week, what would you do if tomorrow is going to be your last day? And then all the crazy suicides that happen in the SEAL teams and in the military. So Stacy and I live a conversation daily called "One More Day." Nothing specifically motivates me unless I have a goal. But that conversation to me is a profound conversation to have. I don't have a year left. I have one more day.
Of all the conversations I've had, and I've had lots, I haven't heard anybody suggest a live one more day conversation. That's very thoughtful. I like that. Yeah, it's an interesting perspective. You can see that would be
One more
powerful.
day.
One more day.
It gives you a lot of energy. Like, one more day.
One more day. One more day.
Who cares about yesterday?
Yeah, no doubt.
The saying in the SEAL teams, there's no easy day but yesterday, is the negative way of saying that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. If imagine you're listening to this and you're 22 years old, you've graduated from college, you're not really sure what to do, you don't particularly have a passion or an interest, you're just saying, I want to feed myself, I want to figure things out. Any suggestions for somebody about maybe what steps to take next?
Between 20 and 30, make as many mistakes going for it as you can. Pick something and go hard, expecting to fail. You're not going to make it probably till you're 40. Don't try to find passion. It comes from within. So no external passion out there on the planet. But go for it. You're supposed to make mistakes, which is the premise of the operational SEAL teams, is it's all mistake driven. Make them. Make them in training, but make them. Let's go. Let's see how we can screw this up.
Right.
Learn to do it right, and then push it till it's wrong, which is master level conversation. But we're telling we're telling the youth the wrong thing. Find something that you're going to enjoy doing. Oh my God, I've been studying and drinking. I don't know what I enjoy doing, which is school,
Right. Sure.
Don't try to find something that you're passionate about or good at. Go for something that's somewhat meaningful to you. whatever that would be. Could be underwater welding. Who the hell cares what it is?
No doubt about
Something that speaks to you, go for it. And don't ask your parents, because they're probably not the greatest informative parts of your life. But go for it and fail. The true character is, what am I going to do after that didn't work? Which is what leadership is anyway.
Oh, absolutely. Fantastic.
That's what the only advice to youth is go for it. And don't try to succeed. Don't worry about that. Don't die.
Right.
Start again.
Well,
They can't even get in front of mentors. You're never going to find a mentor until you have something better to give them than they can give you. So don't ask for people for help unless you've failed 1,000 times, and then they'll see you as an advantage. Like my daughter goes for it. Like, I'm going to do something that I can't figure it out. Good. I'll help you do that.
She's the Apache pilot.
Yep.
Right.
And my middle boy's just beginning to figure that out. Study, Garrett. You got to be able to study. I'm not interested. Good. Here, I'm taking the rug out from under you. Now, whatever you pick is on you. And now okay. And then he starts pursuing it. And from the third party perspective, he looks like he's succeeding at it. And he said, Dad, it's so frustrating. I don't know where it's going. But you're in the game.
Right.
And the game will tell its tale over time.
Right.
The question that we stupidly ask people, hey, what do you want to do in 5 years? What do you want to do in 5 years?
Right.
Don't ask me that. I don't know what I'm 5 minutes from now.
Right.
And we tell kids the wrong thing. Have a plan. They don't have any structure for that. Go for something so hard that you know you're going to fail at doing it. And you'll figure it out. Like, genetically will figure it out. Don't worry about sleep. Do something that's stressful. Wake up thinking about it. Oh, good. That's how greatness is. Don't get 8 hours of sleep. That's the wrong thing.
I have no idea what that would be like. Yeah. That's so true. So true. The first time I went skiing, I had somebody take me to Squaw Valley. And she was the second. I tried first North Carolina, then I went to California to ski Squaw Valley, and they took me to the top. And it was not beautiful, but I made it down. But it really, you learn how to ski very quickly.
Yeah. You learn how to slide.
You slide, rear end and maneuvers and whatever. That's true. That's fantastic. Well, I could literally talk to you about this stuff for hours. I can't remember the last time I've made 4 pages of notes and had just a wonderful time.
Thank you.
And if you haven't read the book Unbreakable: A Navy SEAL's Way of Life by Thom Shea, and 3 simple things I've not read, but I wish I had known. I would have read it before you came on.
Good, there's more.
and you're telling me that if your book, you really enjoy that one.
That's the emotional book. The 3 simple things was to solve complex problems for leaders.
Right.
Which it's more didactic than it is emotional.
One closing thing on 3 simple things: complex problems, breaking them down. What do you tell leaders in 60 seconds about dealing with complex problems?
You always have to be on the offense every day, meaning you have to go find new opportunities every day. You always have to be dealing with clients every day. You can't abdicate the throne. And then you have to have a 5-year plan that you look at every day. There's no days off in leadership. What I saw makes things complex is if there's no sales pipeline that the leader's dealing with every day. So what I initially saw happening in leading or teaching this concept was 3 meetings a day that you have. An offensive meeting, can't last more than an hour. A current client meeting, can't last more than an hour. And a strategic meeting that you have to kick the COO out of the office and all lawyers and accountants out of the office, because they're the harbinger of death to the future, because they're the naysayers. And then have a open conversation of, boy, if everything works out, where's it going to be? And those 3 meetings make the leader lethal.
Love it. Love it. I know the next book I'm reading. 3 Simple Things.
I think it's readable better
That's
than
good.
that one.
That's good. That's good. Well, Thom, thank you. Thank you so much. Again, I could talk to you for hours about this. I really appreciate you coming on today. And thank you for joining us today on Stuttering Your Way to Success with Erik Weir and my very special guest, Thom Shea.
Thank y'all.